Have you heard of The Grabber?
In a world where dead villains stay dead, one filmmaker said, "Not on my watch." Coming this fall, a sequel no one asked for, featuring a villain who died in the first movie, now inexplicably haunting dreams like he just binged the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise during his time in hell. Ethan Hawke returns, maybe. It's hard to tell under the mask. The snow is real, the stakes are frozen, and somewhere Freddy Krueger is filing a copyright claim. Welcome to Frameshift, Deep Cut, where we watch movies so you can decide if they're worth your emotional investment or just another cash grab wrapped in Super 8 film grain. And hey, if you're still here after that intro, you clearly have taste, or at least curiosity. Either way, you should probably hit subscribe. Now let's talk about Black Phone 2, a movie that answered a question literally nobody was asking. What if the grabber, but make him Freddy? Here's the setup. 4 years after Finn beat the grabber to death with a phone in the first movie, everyone's moved on. Except they haven't, because this is a horror sequel and emotional closure is bad for business. Finn's now 17, angry and smoking weed to cope with his trauma, which, honestly, fair. His psychic sister Gwen is 15 and having visions of dead kids under frozen lakes because apparently the family curse is see dead people, the musical. The grabber, oh, he's back, because death is more of a suggestion than a rule in horror franchises. Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill have taken their formerly flesh and blood villain and given him the Freddy Krueger treatment. He haunts dreams now, he manipulates reality, and he's got a whole supernatural upgrade package. It's like they looked at the ending of the first movie where Finn definitively killed him and said, but what if we just didn't care about that? So Gwen's visions lead the siblings to Alpine Lake, a Christian winter camp in Colorado that snowed in during the worst blizzard you've ever seen. There are missing boys. There are ghosts. There's Demian Bichir doing excellent work as a camp supervisor, haunted by decades-old disappearances. And there's the grabber who's traded his basement lair for dream sequences shot in grainy Super 8, because nothing says nightmare logic like making your movie look like a cursed VHS tape from 1983. The question driving this whole thing, can you make a franchise out of a short story that already felt overstuffed in its first adaptation? Spoiler, kind of, but it's messy. Let's address the Freddy Krueger-sized elephant in the room. Black Phone 2 doesn't just borrow from A Nightmare on Elm Street. It straight up moves into Freddy's house, wears his clothes, and starts answering his phone. The grabber now kills in dreams. He crosses into reality through nightmares. There's a sequence in a kitchen where things get surreal and bloody that feels like Derrickson watched Dream Warriors and thought, yeah, I can do that, but with more Catholic guilt. And here's the thing, it actually kind of works. Not because it's subtle, it's about as subtle as a chainsaw at a library, but because Derrickson understands the mechanics of what made those Elm Street movies tick. He's not just copying the surface level imagery, he's studying the grammar. The forced perspective shots, the way the camera becomes complicit in the scares, the dream logic that doesn't need to explain itself. It's all there. This isn't a cover band, it's more like a jazz musician doing a very aggressive tribute set. But let's be real, this movie has an identity crisis. The first Black Phone was claustrophobic, intimate, disturbingly grounded in a very specific kind of 1970s American dread. It was a movie about a kid trapped in a basement using phones to communicate with the dead. Simple, scary, weirdly effective despite being overwritten. Now we've got a snowed-in camp, Catholic theology, visions across time and space, a subplot about Gwen's dead mom also having psychic powers, and a villain who's basically become a supernatural franchise mascot. The structure here is busy, too busy. The first 45 minutes are basically the movie explaining to you why everyone is at this camp, what the rules are, how the grabber can kill now, and why this all connects to Gwen's mom's trauma from the 1950s. It's the horror movie equivalent of someone explaining the extended warranty on your car. You know it's necessary, but you're also checking your watch. But then once the movie stops explaining itself and just leans into its nightmare logic, that gets genuinely scary. There's a sequence where Gwen has a vision of a child's face cut in half by window glass, and the face keeps moving. It's horrifying. It's inventive. It's the kind of image that makes you remember why you fell in love with horror movies in the first place, back when they weren't afraid to traumatize you. Derrickson's direction is confident here. He knows how to frame fear. There's a shot where Finn is in a phone booth and the camera rotates around him to reveal the snowy tundra behind him is now filled with the ghosts of dead children. It's gorgeous and terrifying in equal measure. The frozen lake climax, where everything converges in blood and ice, is legitimately thrilling. It's curtains meets Friday the 13th, meets a fever dream you had after eating bad church potluck. Mason Thames and Madeleine McGraw are doing real work here. Thames plays Finn's anger and trauma with surprising depth. This is a kid who survived something unthinkable and has no idea how to process it, so he just punches things and smokes weed. McGraw's Gwen is foul-mouthed, psychic, and utterly fearless even when she's terrified. These aren't just horror movie teens, they're actual characters with arcs and emotional stakes. Ethan Hawke, well, he's mostly a voice and a mask. Could be him. Could be a stunt double, could be a very dedicated intern. Either way, the Grabber is less scary this time because he's less specific. In the first movie, he was disturbingly human, a basement-dwelling predator with ritualistic tendencies. Now he's just another supernatural slasher, and the rules governing him feel arbitrary. Why can he kill in dreams? Because the script says so. Why does he need phones? Branding, probably. The grainy Super 8 texture used to differentiate dream sequences is a swing. Sometimes it works. It genuinely does look like cursed home video footage. Other times it just makes things harder to see, which is the cardinal sin of horror filmmaking. If I can't tell what's happening, I can't be scared of it. I'm just squinting and hoping for better lighting. Here's the truth though. Black Phone 2 is trying to do something genuinely difficult. It's trying to take a story that ended, that worked, because it was small and claustrophobic, and expand it into something bigger without losing what made it work. And in a lot of ways, it succeeds. It's messier, sure. It's overstuffed, absolutely. But it's also ambitious in a way that most horror sequels aren't. It's not content to just replay the hits. It wants to be something new, something stranger, something that respects the Elm Street movies it's clearly obsessed with, while also carving out its own frozen, blood-soaked identity. There's something admirable about a movie that refuses to play it safe, even when playing it safe would have been easier and probably more profitable. This is a big-budget horror film from a major studio that includes images of mutilated children, theological debates about heaven and hell, and a villain who's simultaneously campy and genuinely menacing. It shouldn't work. That it works as often as it does is a minor miracle. So is Black Phone 2 a good movie? Yeah, mostly. Is it a necessary sequel? Absolutely not. But it's a confident, creative, deeply weird follow-up that understands the assignment, even if it overcomplicates the homework. The Grabber is back, and he's got Freddy Krueger's entire playbook. Whether that's brilliant homage or shameless theft depends on how you feel about horror movies. Quoting other horror movies like they're writing a thesis. Me, I'm just impressed they made it work at all. Anyway, that's our deep cut, where even dead villains get second chances, and so do filmmakers bold enough to resurrect them. Subscribe. It's cheaper than therapy and way more cinematic. Comment your thoughts below. I'll read them while pretending I'm not emotionally invested in your validation. And remember, if a payphone rings in your dreams, maybe just let it go to voicemail.